Certainly, it's a tough task to try to figure out what could happen within each day, like how many sprint races to put in, how many distance races for Colts and Fillies. How do you figure out how the races are going to be put together within a card? Like, do you know like how many sprint races you want to put in, how many distance races? How does it come about?
Well, I definitely try and keep the better races for the weekend. More people are watching. More of our bigger owners like to come out on the weekend, so I generally try and put the better races on the weekend. Other from that, I try to play to what we have on the backstretch. I try not to have too many colts and geldings versus fillies and mares. Other from that, I try not to, or I don't really pay attention to routes versus sprints. Now, when I first started, as a racing secretary in 2003. Previous to that, we had to write 50% of all races every day had to be route races. If I tried to do that today, we'd have five race cards. So I try and put in as many route races as I can. I like long races. I'd like to write more long races. Last year I did a little tribute to Lou Cavaleris, and I'd like to do that again. And we called that the Lou Cavaleris Marathon Series. And I wanted to end that series with a 2-mile turf race here. And we just couldn't work the logistics of moving the gate out of the way, and we have lanes in the turf course, so I just couldn't coordinate the right lanes and how to get rid of the gate. So we ended up having, I think it was 1.75 miles on the turf, on the E.P. Taylor turf course. And it turned out pretty good. So I don't pay attention to sprints versus distance races. What I do try and do is keep a flow for the horses where they always have somewhere to go. And sometimes I hit it, sometimes I miss terribly. But that's what I try and do.
So would you say since the poly track's been installed that that these road horses that these races have diminished since the poly track's been in?
I don't know if it's the poly track has done that. I think what the poly track has changed a lot of things here. So we used to have a lot more dominant sprinters here when I first started. You know, Forever Grand and Tiller's horses and Crazy Ruckus and all those type of horses. And I don't know if you remember, but back when we had a dirt track, it was almost all speed.
Yes.
So, you know, on certain days, it was an inside bias where you got the lead, went to the rail, and you just sort of whizzed around there, and that was it. So route races back then, you know, nobody had a chance to come from behind or come from behind sprinters. I don't know if you remember a horse called Hawk and Flight.
Oh, of course, yes.
And I don't know how he won in the races because he used to be 30 lengths off of it and circle the field going 7/8 of a mile. So I don't think the poly track has changed the sprinters versus the route horse. I think what's happened is just that our horse population sort of evolved into more of a sprinting colony. I mean, the Ontario Sargent horses for a while they were all sprinting stuff, you know, Bold and Flashy and those type of horses. Now they're starting to change a little bit more. So, you know, I don't know if it's the poly track has changed that or just our horse population sort of changed a little bit. So, I mean, it tends to be, the poly track can be a little tiring for horses. And there's definite horses that like it and don't like it. So, I'm not really sure if that's the case. It could be. I'm not really sure.
Now, how about for writing, say, within a card for turf races? Do you like to have it within like 1, 2, 3 turf races within? I guess depending on the day, right? And
so what we try and do is when we were racing Thursdays, we'd have basically a 12 race week. 2 on a Wednesday night, 1 on a Thursday, 2 on a Friday, and then 3 on the weekends. I don't know if we can handle 4 in one day. It gets a little bit tight because we like to stomp the races in between. So now that we have no Thursdays, I try and cram as much as I can in without the turf guys really getting on my case. So what we've done is we've continued with the 2 on Wednesday nights. We try now to write 3 on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes you'll see we'll only have 2 races or 1. That just means that a race didn't fill, that wasn't a condition book. But generally turf races always fill. So we're still trying to, we have 11 races now.
So now when they have the racing, say if it's on a holiday Monday, they won't race on the Wednesday. Is that how it's being done now?
Yeah, and that's not so much that that's a combination of budgetary restraints when the government changed everything and we had to cut everything back. So what we've tried to do for the, you can say it's the right thing or the wrong thing, we tried to keep purses the same in the sense that all our races, we didn't take a purse cut. Now, the horsemen are taking a purse cut because there's less days. So we're running fewer days, so there's less money available to the horsemen. But we tried to keep the daily purse level the same. So to kind of keep within the budget and keep everything where it needs to be, we couldn't go 5 days a week. So if we ran them Monday, we decided to cancel that Wednesday's card and keep within the 4 days for that week. That's where that sort of how that came about.
How do you find about the, because I know as opposed to other years there were a lot of American clientele were coming in. How do you find now that situation's been?
Well, obviously we've fallen out of favor with some Americans. I think our purse structure is still high enough that a lot of Americans want to come here, and that's evident in our stake races. They're still coming. What Americans have found out is it's very hard to set up a stable here in Canada. It costs them a lot of money. There's a lot more red tape. It's not like setting up a stable at Monmouth when you're based in Belmont. So it becomes very expensive for them. And to be truthful, they don't do as well as they think they're going to do. I mean, it's tough competition here. And they don't necessarily bring their best horses. So although they make money, the Aspieces of the world and Lisa Lewis and those kind of people, they do well, but they find it expensive. So, now that Belmont's raising their purses and the smaller tracks in the East Coast there, Mountaineer and Parks and those kind of guys, it makes a little more sense for them to stay home. But we still get a few of them. I mean, Aspieces got one running on the weekend, the 2-year-olds. So, we lost some of them, but they're still paying attention to Woodbine. They're still paying attention. They still want to run here. The herpes outbreak we had a couple weeks ago kind of caught a few of them and they couldn't come. They're still having some problems getting back to their track if they come here. But I think there's still a certain amount of interest in Woodbine, and it's still pretty high.
Yeah, last year it seemed like every other race, Steve Asmussen had a horse in there, so you had to watch what he had in there. I know he actually had one the other day that won. It was a decent price, Killing Me Smalls. I actually remember that name because I love the movie The Sandlot. But yeah, so that was one line from the movie. So it was nice to see him get a win like that. But yeah, not one of his best horses, but he had the horse running here at first, started his career here. Then he brought it to Aqueduct where the horse ran a couple fourths, nothing big, and then came back to the poly track. How do you find horses when running on a poly track, then they move to dirt and then come back to poly? Do you find that they have a lot of success?
I think that if a horse can handle the poly, they can handle going back and forth. It's just some horses just don't handle the poly very well at all, and they're no good here. I don't know. I mean, I don't see much of a difference if a horse can handle both. Some horses can run them. I like to kind of equate it to running on the turf and dirt. Some horses can go back and forth pretty easily, and some can't. The poly, when we first put it was a lot closer to the turf than it is now. I think it's changed a little bit. You notice that we have a few more scratches when it come off the turf. So, that's something that I don't really pay that close attention to. I mean, I'd like to see them come back after going away. I mean, he had Kodiak Cowboy and,
yes.
and started here and went away and came back and did well. So I think if a horse can run here, they generally run pretty good on both tracks. Some horses just don't like the dirt, and those are the type big wide foot horses that the turf is called, as opposed to the dirt track. I don't pretend to know what makes a horse like either one.
Now, just going to this past weekend here, because it was, was anybody here for Queen's Play Day? Show of hands, yeah. What was it like leaving the parking lot? Yeah, that was another story. It was madness. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. But anyway, that just goes to show how. It goes to show of the promoting and all that's been going into getting the Woodbine name out, because you just see advertising all the time about it on television and see it on billboards. So that's really, really cool of how the game's being promoted.
Yeah,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, I tend to be a little critical of our marketing department sometimes. It's very hard to market horse racing. I mean, no one goes to school and say, I know how to get into the head of a horse bettor or a horse player. I mean, everyone leaves there knows how to sell a can of beer, but you know, selling horse racing is a little different. But I thought this weekend, I thought Sunday in particular, we nailed it pretty good. I mean, it was nice atmosphere coming in. The band was playing, the food trucks and the court area. I thought we did a really good job, and we got the product out. It was on the radio all the time. It was on TV, and I know that some people were upset about Ticketmaster having sold sales of tickets, but they really promoted it. I mean, they were sending out emails all the time, and it was their feature event for that month, I think. So, you know, I think they did a pretty good job on Sunday, and
you got a lot of new young people.
yeah, you know, and I think anyone that came on Sunday will definitely be back. I hope that the Queen's Plate, more so than it's ever been, will become that summer event that everyone wants to go to. And I think we did a good job on Sunday. The racing was good, and except for the rain, I mean, everything went off very well.